Peace, everybody. It's your boy Trey the Creator, and welcome to Creators Corner. This is week 5 for us, video number 5. And today is Wednesday, October 21st, 2020. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the video, as well as share it and hit the notification bell. Please, again, like and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, as well as share the video. Thank you very much. Let's get started. Where I'm gonna start today is we're gonna kind of start where we started last week, because the Ice Cube situation kind of has trickled into this week, and a few things have happened that I think we need to address. As of recently, I'm gonna start with the most recent thing. DL Hughley. First off, I want to say I fuck with DL Hughley. He is a very funny comedian. And I believe that he means well in a lot of the stuff that he says and a lot of the stuff that he does. But I think him, like as well as P. Diddy, they are terribly misinformed. They are terribly misguiding. They're misguiding the people, and I just believe that they're unlearned and unfit to speak on certain issues. Now, the difference between, I believe, Ice Cube and P. Diddy is, I believe Ice Cube has amassed a team to give him information to speak with. Whereas Diddy, I believe Diddy is, I'm not going to say he doesn't have a team, but I don't believe he has the right team around him. And DL Hughley, what he said to me was utterly disrespectful towards Ice Cube and the black people in general. He completely jumped the gun in what he said. He completely took what Ice Cube was doing was out of context. And I just simply believe that he was dead flat wrong. Ice Cube is not endorsing Trump. I think we addressed that last week. He simply put out a contract, I believe either 2 or 3 to 6 months ago, and told each political party, listen, we want to vote for you all, but we're not going to keep voting for you all if we're not getting anything out of voting. He put that out for both parties to take a view at and implement into policy. Now, of course, as I expected, of course, the Democrats said they will review the plan with his contract with Black America after the election. Of course, we knew that the Democrats aren't really interested in working with us, but the Republican Party, not Trump, the Republican Party and Trump's administration responded to Ice Cube. They began negotiating, and that's all there was. There is no endorsement of the Republican Party. There is no co-signing of the Republican Party. It's simply it's simply business being discussed, because voting is a business deal. And I think that a lot of people think that just because you talk with the Republican Party, that means you're automatically cooning to a certain degree, and that's retarded. Voting is business. We as black people have never looked at voting as business, and that's the problem. We believe we go out and vote, and then that's it. Everybody is now saying, well, we need to vote and then hold these presidential candidates accountable after the vote. No, you negotiate before you give someone something, period. You just don't hand someone $1,000 and then tell them the stipulations you want them to do after. No, before you give them $1,000, you tell them this is what I need, and you get it in contracts. That is the contract with Black America, period, point blank. If these politicians cannot meet that contract, then there is no vote. The racial wealth gap, as Ice Cube and others have pointed out, is just insanely it's just insanely ridiculous when you look at it. Like, the numbers are insane. What white people have compared to what black people have is completely on a different level. And we need something. You understand what I'm saying? I'll go into, what the Democrats, why the Democrats are ignoring us on a different video. But I had to touch on DL Hughley for a second, because I think that he spoke out of context. And P. Diddy, I think P. Diddy is in uncharted territory and out of his lane in what he is doing, because P. Diddy earlier this year said stuff similar to what I have been saying. You know, people like Tariq Nasheed have been saying. You know, people even from the ADOS group have been saying, you know, hold the vote, don't vote, don't vote. We need to hold our vote hostage. I listened to what he said sitting down with Charlemagne, and I could tell he was listening to people like Umar Johnson. I could tell by how, the vernacular of language that he was using. But this is where I say he's misinformed, because just because Trump is saying and doing racist things, that does not give you what's the word I'm looking for? The validation to go out of your way to now tell black people that, oh, well, it's time for us to get in the game. It's getting too serious, as if it already wasn't serious. Like you're saying that just because Trump said that. That doesn't mean that these other politicians have never addressed white supremacy or white supremacist groups. Neither have they ever done anything about it. The FBI said in 2006 that white supremacist organizations infiltrated law enforcement. Bush was the president at the time. Last time I checked, Obama didn't do anything about it. He just ignored it. So now that Trump is dog whistling, oh, we're scared. No, he's just doing what racist people do. And instead of us sitting here and saying, well, we need to get him out of office. So, like, I consider him dog whistling and calling these people to the forefront is, to me, telling us to get on our guard and tell us we need to get bullets and we need to get guns because we need to defend ourselves. You don't want, to me, that's why I like him, because he's telling us what it is and how we need to move. Plainly put, you don't want a president in office that's knowing what's going to go down but doesn't say anything to you. No, you want a person like Trump in office. And I'm not saying going to vote for him, but I'm saying he's telling you how you need to move as a black person. We need to come together, and that is the central message today. I'm going to talk about black unity, because black unity has been shaken out of us. We are so divided. Republican Party, Democratic Party, Christian, Muslim, Jew, Moor, Kemetic, Nigerian, Ghanaian, African, Haitian, Dominican. We're so fucking divided that it makes no sense. And I mean, this election cycle is showing us how we are divided. Everybody knows we need a black agenda. Everybody knows we need something from these politicians. But all I hear is division. That's all I hear. People like me are sitting here saying we need to come together. Damn, you know what I'm saying? Damn the election. If we pull our resources together, you know what I'm saying? We don't need them. I hear black people saying, well, we need to go vote to get resources. What? It's crazy when you sit here and think about that. These people have never given a fuck about you. Every single statistic that they say about I'm talking about these political parties. Every single statistic that they say about the racial wealth gap and the disparities of the African American community, the U.S. government created those. Not to mention, this comes from their information. So you mean to sit here and tell me in our entire tenure of voting, we have not moved, we have not progressed, we've digressed? But now in this presidential election, we're supposed to somewhat get better 60, 70 years after voting, when we have never gotten better. In every single election cycle, these politicians do nothing for us and ignore us. People need to wake up to the system that's in play. That's a system. That is not, I mean, it's somewhat our fault because we're not, as of integration, we have not been quote unquote psychologically aware of what's going on. But nowadays we are. And we still continue to think that the system is going to benefit us. And I'm tired of that, man. I'm tired of sitting here having to try. I mean, I don't mind. I'm not going to say I'm tired, because it's kind of my due diligence as a person who knows. But it's somewhat annoying when I have to explain to black people about a system. Every black person, every African American knows about the system, but continues to be oblivious to the system. The system was never set up for you to get anything anyway. That's common sense. You have gotten worse as a people. You're 13% of the population. I believe it's more of us, but you're considered 13% of the population that has not moved the needle at all in the past 60 years. Yeah, you got doctors. Yeah, you got lawyers. Yeah, you got attorneys. Yeah, you got construction workers. You have police officers. You have city officials. You have mayors. You have governors. You had a president. But your people have not moved. The higher we've got in office and political offices or in higher places, the lower we have done as a community. You can't judge black progress off individual circumstances or individual achievements. You have to base it on an entire group. And as a group, we are still number one in poverty. We're still number one in incarcerated. They say we're number one in coronavirus. I mean, like, it's so much that we're number one in negative attributes and negative stigmatizations. We're number one in all of that. And we're only 13% of the population. Think, that is a system in play. That's not something that we have somewhat caused on ourselves. I mean, you could say it is, but we are what they have. We are what they want us to be. We are what they made us. And in this video today, I'm going to highlight that. I have to start with the beginning of our inception here in America, because I can't. This is the only place I can start. I could just go further back, but I don't. Black people. How can I say this? Most black Americans don't understand their history before slavery. So I kind of have to start there per se, because of course I can go into, you know what I'm saying, the Spanish Inquisition. I can go into, you know what I'm saying, when the Greeks invaded Egypt. I can go into a plethora of different things, but I have to start with slavery in the Americas first. I have to, because it's where people can pick up and not necessarily debate with me or go against what I'm saying. So let's start there. Slavery again, and I also have to say this too. The Bible will be used somewhat in this. Well, I'm not gonna say it's gonna be used, but the Bible will be a part of this somewhat, because like I've said before, the King James version of the Bible and slavery started around the same time. The conversation of slavery and the conversation of the creation, of the King James Bible all started around the same time. I want people to really understand that. The conversation for the King James version of the Bible and the conversation for slavery in the Americas started around the exact same time. That's no coincidence that your enslavement was a conversation at the same time as the creation of the Bible. There's no mistaking that. And I want people to really understand that. So moving forward, slavery started in 1619. The King James version of the Bible was written in 1611. So I just wanted to point that out, because I know a lot of black people, a lot of Hebrew Israelites per se, like to go with the Bible and say that the Bible was somewhat, it's our book, in that certain scriptures speak to our enslavement here in America. And I want to let people know that if we're gonna go based off what the Bible says, then we're going based off what the King James version of the Bible says. And the King James version of the Bible is not the oldest Bible. It's not the only Bible that was around that time. You have the Geneva Bible also that was around that time. And you also have the authorized version of the Bible that was around that time. All right. Now, speaking of King James, I think I should talk about King James and elaborate on him for a minute here. King James of England. He was a ruler who felt that he should be the only person to dictate his people and govern his people. And he basically thought otherwise than the Pope, essentially. There was a split between the Anglo-Saxons and Rome and the Vatican. They also understood that the people had been using the Bible for years, essentially, um, to basically get the people to do what they wanted to do. They basically used the Bible to wage wars and etc. And I believe that Dick Gregory described King James as a man that would make they I'm tongue talking right now. But Dick Gregory described King James as a man that would make Adolf Hitler like Santa Claus. He was a terrible man. He simply put was a terrible man, and he was a murderer, and he wanted to have his own Bible so that he could control you. He wanted his own Bible that he could use and control his subjects. He commissioned a team of writers to first create the authorized version of the Bible, and then when the King James version of the Bible was written, only the royal class could read it. Essentially, so people would be put to death if you were found with a Bible. I thought I should just put that out there because I don't know if I said this already, but King James was gay. He was gay. He was white. Don't let any Hebrew Israelite tell you that he was black. He wasn't. You could look up pictures of him. He was white. He also wrote demonology. So any man who was inspired by God to write God's word, I don't think that these are are attributes God would be looking for his vessel, because people like to say the Holy Spirit fell on him. Bullshit. This is a man who created the Bible for his own political and personal gain. You can look this up and you can research this. And I had to make sure that I said that, because a lot of people don't understand the Bible in its entirety, and that book was used basically to enslave us. And let's also keep speaking about these Europeans. Pope Eugenius the Fourth was basically the first person to give the Portuguese the right to enslave African people. His name is Pope Eugenius. He was the one of the people, or the first person, to give the Portuguese the right to enslave people. And I feel that we will be having it. And you know what I'm saying, this whole thing about the Bible, if white people actually followed the Bible, if they followed two scriptures, Exodus 20:15 and Exodus 20:13, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, history will be completely different. But as I say, those who make the rules break the rules, essentially. So, I felt I should just interject some of that a little bit here when discussing the Bible, because the Bible is something that has been used against us and was created to be used against us and to keep us enslaved. Not to mention that the Pope Eugenius also said that we were not human, and that's the reason why laws were passed to enslave us, essentially. And it gave every European country the green light to enslave Africans. One of the people that essentially would enslave us had got the green light. A lot of people don't know who this is. Was King Leopold. I know I'm kind of supposed to be talking about the Bible, but I need to interject this into this video. King Leopold II of Belgium, born April 9th, 1835 of Belgium. King Leopold basically felt that he should rule the Congo, and he basically did exactly that. He went over there, enslaved the people. He held a conference to basically get permission from, people of Belgium to allow him to go into the Congo. And he basically lied to the people, said that he was going to basically, free the people and, create trade routes. But instead, he went down there to enslave the people. And this was all of that stuff he said to them was a front for his colonial activities. And basically, he got a man by the name of Henry Morton, who was a journalist and an explorer, to go down to the Congo, essentially, with him, and basically survey the lands, build outposts, build roads, and establish treaties with the African chiefs, who, of course, didn't know what they were signing, because we find that prevalent in white history. They get people to sign shit that they don't know what the fuck they're signing. and the rest from there becomes history. And of course, Leopold was not the only person interested in African slave trade. Of course, at the time, we know, because white people were, going into Africa taking slaves. If you look up, excuse me, if you look up the Berlin Conference, the Berlin Conference is basically a conference that was basically at the conference they discussed how they were going to divide Africa up among the French, the Portuguese, and etc. That's basically what the Berlin Conference was. And I wanted to and all of this is basically in the name of Jesus because of that Bible. It's because white people felt that they were ordained by God to basically rule black people, essentially, or rule African people. And the stuff that King Leopold did was crazy. He would, just to meet his quotas of rubber, because rubber was such a rare commodity and was needed in these European countries. You know what I'm saying? He would have the slaves work all type of hours, and if they didn't meet the quotas, he would chop hands off and mutilate people, and not to mention the skin that would be used from the chopped off limbs would go towards the rubber quota. So, not to mention people no longer have hands, but their hands were being used as rubber. All this was done in the name of the Bible. I want people to understand that. People really don't understand what that Bible, that King James Version Bible, has meant for black people. It basically, that's why I said those who make the rules, those who make the rules break the rules. If you understand that you made this Bible, then of course you're going to sit here and say, well, I can enslave these people because I made the Bible. It's my right. That Bible was never meant for us. That Bible is our detriment, and I will at a later date discuss why. But I felt I needed to interject this into the video. So if the video does not flow as usual as it should, this is why. Because I had to put in here stuff about just other examples of these Europeans doing fucked up shit to us. Because we really need to understand that these white people really had conferences, really had meetings, really had discussions about enslaving you. Meanwhile, you ain't even thinking about them. These African people wasn't, let's think, before slavery, we wasn't thinking about them. They was thinking about us. They were just plotting on us. And King Leopold, he did shit worse than Hitler did. You understand? But no, he's not talked about in history. They won't talk about him. They'll talk about Hitler and what he did to the Jews. You know what I'm saying? Let's not be trying to take away from what happens to the Jews. But the African Holocaust is a Holocaust that they don't really want to touch on. Because if they just touch on King Leopold alone, come on, man. But like I said, I had to interject this in here because I was going through the video and I saw we was talking about the Bible. I'm like, yo, let me inject this shit right here, man. Because I want people to really understand what has been done with this Bible. You have been conquered in the name of Jesus. And don't even realize it, but think Jesus is supposed to save you. How you going to worship the same how you going to worship the same God as your master and expect God to favor you? We the only people that think like that God is on our side because we're his chosen people. No, clearly God ain't favoring you. You know what I'm saying? Come on. Like I said, they wrote the Bible. You did not write the Bible, so they wrote it in their favor. But that's nonetheless. Let me like I said, I just need to interject this into this video because I felt people needed to, know stuff surrounding this Bible essentially. So I just want people to know that. But let's go from there. So it's funny how, like I said, they wrote the Bible around and came out with the Bible right after or during the same time of your enslavement. Just want to point that out to some people. And the white man wrote this Bible, by the way, also. It was not a black man who wrote this. White people in Europe wrote this Bible. I want people to think about that. Not somebody in Africa. Not an African, not a Nigerian, not a Ghanaian, not anyone from Ghana, not anyone from the Congo, not anyone from Mali. No, Europeans wrote this Bible. I just want people to understand that before we go anywhere else. Cool. All right, so now that we got that out the way, let's talk about where do I want to go from here? Let's now talk about a man by the... Well, no, let's actually start with the slave trades that were going on pre-colonial times. Let's talk about the East African slave trade for a second. The East African slave trade was basically when Arabs were essentially conquering into Northern Africa and West Africa and East Africa. More so like the real top north of Africa. One of the take these headphones off so I can get going. One of the kingdoms that were essentially conquered was the Songhai Empire, the Mali Empire, Kenya, Mozambique, Tanzania, Ghana, Kingdom of Kanem, and a plethora of other kingdoms were conquered during the during the Arab slave trade, essentially. And this is how you get Islam in Africa, essentially. So this is the reason why I tell black people that you were not a Christian before your enslavement. If you come from any of those, if your ancestry goes back to any of those countries, at least, because if you come from, let's say, I don't know, let's say you come from Sierra Leone, you practice an indigenous African tradition at that point. You didn't know anything about Islam or anything like that. But Islam did come into Africa at a certain point due to the Arab slave trade. And even though we, practice Islam, we still had a unity. We still created great civilizations like Timbuktu. It had a library, it had colleges, it had a multiple and a plethora of different organizations that we thrived off of. And all of these that I named, the Songhai Empire, the Ghana Empire, the Kingdom of Kanem, all of that, even after being enslaved by the Arabs and then being enslaved by the Europeans, is what led to our inception here in America. Now, a man by the name of Dr. Edward Robinson. He is a descendant of the Songhai Empire. He is one of the few people who actually knows his ancestry. And he has an interview with Jabari Osaze. I recommend everyone go watch it. His name again is Dr. Edward Robinson, and the person he's been interviewed by is one of my teachers, essentially, Jabari Osaze. I'll make sure to put his name in the video so people can, look it up, whatever the case is. But nonetheless, one thing he pointed out in his interview is that our ancestors, and this is something I always say, our ancestors were not slaves. They were prisoners of war. That is, slave is a white colonial name given to our parents and our ancestors. They weren't going over there just throwing niggas in chains. That is a misconception. There was a war that went down. Bombs were going off. You know what I'm saying? People were fighting back. It just so happened that we've never been a military type of people. We're peaceful people. We go to war if we need to, but that's not our thing. War isn't what we do. And besides, we didn't have gunpowder. You know what I'm saying? The Asians gave the Europeans gunpowder, and look at where that got us, essentially. But nonetheless, we were prisoners of war. What they would do essentially was when they would import slaves from, West Africa, what they would do essentially is, of course, they would bring us over here, and of course, we would have slave rebellions, because essentially, You know what I'm saying? These were, like I said, these were not slaves. They were prisoners of war. So they would rebel, you know what I'm saying, rebel. You know what I'm saying? These were warriors that you were bringing down. Not to mention they're training their offspring, their children, like, hey, you come from such and such. This white man took you from your land, and he essentially put us in chains, and we got to fight back. You know what I'm saying? And that's essentially what was going on. And, excuse me, a man by the name of, let me find his name right quick. A man by the name of Johann Blumenbach. He was a man who was in Germany, and he essentially told the slave owners that had problems with their slaves that, you know what I'm saying, you can't let these Africans know who they are. You can't let these Africans know their history. You have to, you know what I'm saying, you have to do psychological damage to these people. So essentially what you have to do is, as soon as you get a slave ship in, take the children from the parents and send them to 2 separate slave plantations. Teach the children that they come from a jungle, that they come from nothing, and that we had that saved them. That's essentially what Johann Blumenbach, you know what I'm saying, would tell the slave owners to do to the slaves, essentially. You know what I'm saying? We also know this to be true due to this book right here, the Willie Lynch letter. Now, I recommend every black person get the Willie Lynch letter. If you do not have the Willie Lynch letter, you are terribly, again, uneducated and misinformed on your history. You need the Willie Lynch letter. Let's go into the Willie Lynch letter for a second. Let's talk about what's in the Willie Lynch letter. This is gonna be a long video. I just got to point this out now because it's so much stuff I have to talk about that I can't. I'm leaving stuff out. It's so much stuff I have to talk about. This is on page 6 of the Willie Lynch letter. I caught a whiff of the dead slaves hanging from a tree a couple miles back. You are not only losing valuable stock by these hangings, you are having uprising of your slaves. Notice what this is also in correlation with Johann Blumenbach said. But you are losing valuable stock due to these hangings. You are having slave uprisings, and slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left into the field for too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate, but I am not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce a method to solving them. So this is the Willie Lynch letter, essentially, by a man by the name of Willie Lynch. Get this book. I'm going to continue to read what's in this book, but I recommend you get the book. That way you can have it in your study and in your personal belonging. You can have it and you can know what these white people did to you and your ancestors. Because I'm tired of hearing people talk about we need to get over slavery. It was that long ago. No, my nigga. You need to learn. They don't. No, it's nothing we need to get over. Yeah, we don't need to get over anything. Slavery, plainness, no. Especially when these niggas is still killing us to this day. No. Okay, so he basically said that he has a foolproof method of controlling black slaves, and he guarantees that if you install this correctly, that this method will last for at least 300 years. 300 years. And I believe this was written, I want to say, in the 1700s. Don't quote me on that. But I think this was written in the 1700s. Or 1800s. One of the two. I can't remember when this was written. But nonetheless, 300 years, essentially, this plan will be implemented and the effect will last that long. That's a long time. But let's keep going. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. What do they do to us today? What is our problem today? You know what I'm saying? We're scared of white people. You know what I'm saying? We say we're not scared, but we are scared. George Floyd's killer is running around right now. I forgot what his name is. They snuck that by us recently. Shout out to Rod Digger on the You Know What I Mean Godcast. She pointed that out. He's out and about on bond. George Zimmerman is still running around. Yeah. Scared of white people. We distrust one another. We can't get along for nothing. What did I say in the beginning of this video? We can't get along for shit. We're too divided. You understand what I'm saying? But let's keep going. This is I'm moving down as I go inside of this book. Like I said, get this book. You can read it in its entirety yourself. But I have to point certain things out to get to a bigger point. The black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male. I'm going to say that one more time. You must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use these dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. I'm going to say that. Some of this stuff I got to repeat because, come on, man. Like, get this goddamn book, man. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must also have your white servants and his overseers distrust all blacks. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. This speaks to the problem with African Americans today. We got so much disdain for one another. We got so much heat and we got so much animosity towards one another. But we don't look at the common enemy. Who's like, come on, man. Like, come on, I can't say no more. That alone right there should tell you everything. This was, like I said, this is during slavery. Come on, man. Let me just continue. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity if used intensely for 1 year. The slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. All right, let's go to another part in this goddamn book. All right, the name of this is Let's Make a Slave, the origin of the development of the social being called Negro. We're 30 minutes in and I haven't even gotten, man, goddamn. Okay, let me stop pandering. Let us make a slave. What do we need? First of all, we need black nigger men, a pregnant nigger baby and her nigger baby boy. Second, we will use the same basic principle that we use in breaking a horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. We reduce them from their natural state, whereas nature provides them, and then the natural captivity to take care of their needs and their needs for their offsprings. We will break that natural string of independence from them and therefore create a dependency state so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our business and pleasure. Let's keep going. Keep the body, take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. Now, the breaking process is the same for the horse and the niggers, only a slightly varying in degrees. You must keep your eye focused on the female and the offspring of the nigger. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay attention to the generation of breaking, but concentrate on the future generations. Therefore, if you break the female, she will break the offspring in its early development, and the offspring will work for us. She will deliver it up to you. Come on, man. What more do I need to say at this point? Let's go to another, because I could read. That's an entire section I could read. When it comes to breaking the uncivilized nigger, use the same process but varied degree and step up to the pressure, so that to do so, it's a complete reversal of the mind. And this is the key. This is one of the most, you can find this in I think Denzel said this, and I think it's The Great Debaters. But go watch that movie. You can look that up on YouTube. Take the meanest, the most restless nigger, strip him of his clothes, and in front of the I'm gonna rewind because I'm stumbling. I want people to understand what the fuck I just said. Take the meanest and most restless nigger, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining nigger males, the females and nigger infants, and feather him. Tie each leg to a different horse faced on opposite directions. Set him afire and beat the horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining niggers. Then the next step is to take the bullwhip and beat the remaining nigger males. Do to the point of death in front of the female and infant niggers. Do not kill him, but put the fear of God in him, so that they can be useful for future breeding. Come on, man. That's what they did to you. They did far worse than that. You know, we like to talk about, you know what I'm saying, the shit that was done to the males. I mean, the females, we never talk about the shit that was done to the males. That's just the tip of the iceberg. They raped us. You know what I'm saying? They would, you know what I'm saying, do what they wanted to us sexually. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would eat us. Read a book called The Delectable Negro. I don't have it with me right now, but read that. You know what I'm saying? Nat Turner's remains, you know what I'm saying? I think his family just got those back. You know what I'm saying? The family, the slave family that owned that, they just giving him his aphrodisiacs up. Come on, man. It's one more point I gotta go, and I'm gonna put this book down because we're already at 31 minutes. God damn, my videos are an hour long usually. This is gonna be a long ass video. Okay, the breaking process of the African woman. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. That's what they did to your woman, black man. I want to stop right there right quick. I know I'm stopping a lot, but I got to say this shit. This was what they did to your woman. And this is one of the reasons why I always tell black people that, of course, it's a 50-50 split on the reasons why we are what we are. But I got to let black men know, listen, bro, we got to step up to the plate. This is what the fuck this European male has done to your woman. Your woman. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she is willing to submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip and extract the last bit of a bitch out of her. Take care not to kill her. So you notice they ain't killing you. I mean, they're killing some of us, but they're beating you to submission. This is what they're doing to you. Okay. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so you spoil good economics. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. And like I said, there's more in this book. There's also a point about the marriage unit, but I want to leave this book alone. Black people, I know my reading skills aren't the best, but please, the Willie Lynch letter, I believe it's like $7, $7, $8, no more than $10 on Amazon. Please get this book. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. And I was supposed to be talking about what's his name, Dr. Edward Robinson. And I completely pulled that out. That's an alone is enough to end this video. But anyway, Johann Blumenbach was another man who basically said the same thing essentially that Willie Lynch did, nonetheless. In 1808, a law was passed to stop the importation of the Songhai people. Why did they pass that law? Because if you keep bringing in these warriors from the Songhai Empire, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to keep having slave rebellions. You're going to lose more money than you're spending to get these niggas over here. And they also basically said, let's just breed them over here. You know what I'm saying? You have enough of them, breed their asses over here. You know what I'm saying? So, essentially, like I said, the slave owners could not control the slaves. And that's why some of these methods were implemented. And I just want people to understand that. This system was put in place to break us, to break the foundation of us. It is something about us that when we unify, you know what I'm saying, we can do impossible things. You know what I'm saying? Like the Egyptians, they understood that. You know what I'm saying? The kingdom of Mali, you know what I'm saying? These niggas had colleges. They understood astrology. Even you know what I'm saying, Mansa Musa, you know what I'm saying, he converted to Islam. And most of the African kings and monarchs, they converted to Islam for political reasons, but whatever the case is, they were united. We don't that unity has been bred out of us, and it's something about us when we unify, the things that we can do, and white people know it. But let's continue. Another thing I believe people need to check out is the slave narratives. I think I might have brought this up in another video. Slave narratives are the accounts of slaves during slavery. Of course, like I said earlier, the first slaves that were brought over here were not Christian. They did not convert into Christianity until around the 19th century, 1800s essentially. And one of the main prominent people to become Christian was Nat Turner. And if you know anything about Nat Turner, he became a Christian. He went around preaching, you know what I'm saying, the word of God, essentially to the slaves. You know, slaves obey your masters, yada, 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 yada. And then he woke up, rebelled, and got killed. The only way, you know what I'm saying, the only way to get freedom, you know what I'm saying, you got to rebel. I tell people that all the time. You got to go against the norm. You can't go against the norm trying to get freedom. Revolutions aren't started by going with the status quo. You know what I'm saying? You got to go against the grain if you want freedom. That's a common denominator here. You know what I'm saying? I understand people have died, you know, but freedom costs. You know what I'm saying? Freedom costs. Freedom is not free. Freedom does not come with you just being docile and being nonviolent and nonchalant, and freedom doesn't come with voting. Freedom comes from a mindset that says no more. Come hell or high water, unto death I'm gonna get mine. Not unto death, even in death I'm gonna get mine. Black people had that at one point. We ain't got that shit no more. Got a whole new Negro nowadays. Got a PhD, got a master's degree, got a Mercedes Benz. You know what I'm saying? Got a sending their kids to college, can't afford to fuck up. Too individualized, too independent, and just self-sufficient and selfish on just ourselves. We don't have no community set mindset anymore. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The Christian slaves, like I said, did convert. And I also have to say this: the slave owners were hoping that their slaves would convert because Christianity was a docile religion. It taught you to be docile. You know what I'm saying? Slaves obey your masters, shit like that. Basically what the African American prisoners of war did was they mixed Christianity with some of the ancient African traditions. This is where you get Negro spirituals from. You understand what I'm saying? Negro spirituals, you know what I'm saying, go back years, of course, as we know. I also want to pull up two scriptures right quick because I think these two scriptures speak to what I'm talking about right now. And one is Colossians. Let me pull it up right now. I should have already had it. Colossians 3:22. And Colossians 3:22 is slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything and do it, not only when their eye is on you and to curry their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. That is a very, very deceiving scripture. Very. Because it's basically saying that God is telling you to obey your masters, go along with what they say, and do it in favor in his name. Let's go to Ephesians. And like I said, I was going to use the Bible in this. Let's go to Ephesians 6 and 5. All right, Ephesians 6 and 5. Again, hold on, because I'm waiting for this shit to come up. I need to come on. Goddamn, come on, Google. Whatever the case is, it says, slaves, obey your masters with all fear and with all respect and fear, and with the sincerity of your heart, just as you would obey Christ. Gang. Imagine teaching someone who doesn't know their name, doesn't know their country of origin, doesn't know their original name, doesn't know their original language, doesn't know their original religion. Imagine putting that into a, let's say, 5 to 6 to 12-year-old child. Imagine just putting that in them every single Sunday. And, you know what I'm saying, Sunday may just be Sunday may have been the off days given. And I'm getting ahead here, but Sunday may have been one of the off days given to the slaves. But it is not. You have to understand, like I said, the Willie Lynch letter said, the woman will be used to keep the mental slavery going. You know what I'm saying? Because, of course, a male is going to want to rebel when he's down. So the woman will continue to use scriptures like this to say, obey your master, boy. You know what I'm saying? And shit. You know, it's perpetual. It's self-inflicting at this point. It's creating a self-loathing system mentally in the slave. There was something I also wanted to bring up. It was by the name of Reverend C.C. Jones. Reverend C.C. Jones in the 19th century here in Georgia, he introduced the process of Christianizing African slaves to where the slave masters, of course, would give the slaves Sundays off. But he also taught the slaves that if they obeyed their master, they will get their reward in heaven. Now, I want to stop right here for a second. Like I said, this is the problem with us. And this is why most Negroes nowadays are so docile, because they believe Jesus is going to come save them. I said earlier that Bible was written around the same time slavery started. I said that shit for a reason. I ain't say that just to, you know what I'm saying, say it. I said it because that holds weight. That Bible was meant to keep you enslaved. That's all I'm going to say about that. It was meant to keep you docile. Like I said, that is not the original and only Bible that man has ever created or had. And I say created and had for a reason. There are older manuscripts that say completely different things. I want to point that out. But that Bible was meant to keep you in check. And also, to a certain degree, to keep white people in check, because it gives them a sense of authority over you. Yeah, we're not, you know what I'm saying? Like, when these people was coming up with all this shit, it's well thought out planning. You know what I'm saying? These white people knew that this would fuck with us hundreds of years, centuries later. They knew what it was going to do to not only us, but to, you know what I'm saying, regular white people. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Like, I guess I can go in on all of this shit all day. Where else do I want to go from here? Because okay, let's go with let's jump from slavery to let's talk about some good news. It's not necessarily good news, but let's talk about some of the black because after we were emancipated, not freed, I always tell people we were emancipated, we became U.S. citizens. And from us doing that, of course, we had a little hiccup here and there. Let me get some water right quick. It's 43 minutes in. Jesus. And guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I know that I usually put references and stuff in the video, but this is going to be a long video. It's already takes me like 3 to 4 hours just to put the references I have in these hour-long videos. Imagine, I don't know how long this video is going to be yet. I'm already at 44 minutes. So if I don't put references in here as many, bear with me. I'm making sure to speak very, very clearly so you understand what I'm saying. That way you can do the research on your own, because don't take my word for it. I want people to understand that. This is why I created this channel, essentially. I didn't create it just for me. I mean, I kind of did, but I didn't just create it just for me to just speak my mind. No, I want you to do your research and educate me if I'm wrong on some shit. You can't necessarily say that I'm wrong, because the Willie Lynch letter, the effect still holds to this day. Johann Blumenbach was a real person. Reverend C.C. Jones is a real person. I already gave you the dates on the Bible and where slavery started. And I could go in a whole nother depth on King James and himself. He was a terrible man. Not to mention he was gay, but he was was inspired by God to write the Bible. What type of shit is that? He also wrote demonology for people who want to know that. So he was inspired by God to write that shit too. Like, wake the fuck up, people. Understand that. Wake the fuck up. When you do research on this shit, you're going to come to the same conclusion I did. You know what I'm saying? I'm sounding, erratic, but I got to, because I hate when I have to, like I said, I'm not going to say the word hate, because I understand it's my duty to wake people up, because I had to be waking up myself. But it's, like I said, it's annoying when you have to go through so much bricks and cement and so much clutter in these niggas' minds to get them to wake the fuck up. Like, when all it takes is just picking up a book and understanding you don't know everything already. There's more to know. If you go to church every Sunday and you still reading the same book and ain't learning nothing new, come on, man. Like, people don't even know about the Council of Nicaea. I'm going into other shit later on down the line, but let's talk about this shit for a minute. Black people who go to church don't even know about the Council of Nicaea. They don't know about the Crusades. They don't know about any of that. They know who Constantine is, but they don't know what he did. They know what Alexander the Great is, but they don't know what he did. They don't know what none of these people have done, and these people are very, very, very influential in your doctrine. They know who King James is, but they don't know what he did. They don't know the Bible has been changed multiple times. Different versions that have been written for, people's own personal gain and personal reasons. They don't know that. Like, come on, man. Gotta wake up, people. But let's get back on topic here. We're gonna talk about some of the black hubs or some of the great black communities that were produced after slavery or after emancipation. Tulsa, Oklahoma is probably the most infamous, the most famous and well-known black hub or great black community. It's the most known. But there was one in Chicago, there was one in Detroit, there was one in Memphis, there was one in Atlanta. Everybody knows about Rosewood. We saw that, people have that movie. There was one in New Orleans, there was one in Philly, there was one in a plethora of different places. Google search black massacres and you will find out that there was a black massacre in almost every major city in America, where black people was doing their thing without white people, and envious, hating ass white people came in and destroyed it. But we're going to talk about Black Wall Street for a second. And this story is probably known by most people, but I have to say it in case niggas don't know, because again, people don't know anything about history outside of Martin Luther King and Jesus. Sad to say. But Black Wall Street was the mecca of success for black people. Blacks their own farmlands. Blacks had their own airplanes. The dollars traded hand to hand, and there was a trust with one another, and there needed to be a trust due to the Jim Crow laws. People need to understand that the Jim Crow era was not something that white people just felt, but it was law. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it was a law put in place for separation. For segregation. You couldn't come here. You can't shop here. You can't get water here. You can't use the bathroom here. You can't eat here. You can't stand here. You can't sit here. Those were laws. That's not just white people being envious. That was the U.S. government, again, implementing their laws. When people sit here and tell me, well, something is against the law or something is in the right of the law, well, who controls the law then? Who controls the law? It's not you. You know what I'm saying? These people make the laws. And you know what they say? Those who make the rules break the rules. But again, like I said, black people had a common trust and did so much stuff on in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There was 600 businesses. There was physicians. There was medical institutions. There were pawn shops, churches, restaurants, movie theaters. The dollar circulated 36 to 1,000 times in the community. It would take almost a year for the money or the currency to leave the community. Today, the dollar can't even stay in the community for a couple hours. I'm not gonna lie. I love Amazon. I ain't gonna lie. I just ordered a book the other day. I could have went to my man down the street, but he ain't having it in stock. He said he ain't gonna be able to get it for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like, bruh, I ordered some Apple Pods. Not Apple Pods, some Apple earphones for my fiance. You know, I would love to know a black-owned business that made headphones. You know what I'm saying? Like a black-owned business that does cases. I didn't do case. Like, I wish I had a black-owned laptop. You know what I'm saying? I wish I could do that, but we don't have that. We gave it all up due to integration. But that's neither here nor there. I'm jumping ahead. They had their own bus system that was owned by Dr. Barrett. He also was a doctor, and he brought in $500 a day. Let's do some math right quick. That's $500 a day back then. Let's say if a nigga brought home $500 a day today, 7 days a week. That's 500 times 500 times 7. That's 3,500 essentially a week. 4 weeks in a month. That's $1,400 a month. And if we divide that again by 4, you know what I'm saying, we'll get the week again. We divide that by 52 weeks in a year. That is what most doctors make now, or a little more. And he was making that back then. And this is like the 1900s to the 1920s. You know what I'm saying? He was making a little over $100 million. You know what I'm saying? That man was bringing in the money back then. That we had money. We had it. We had what we say we want today back then. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, we integrated. But like I said, I'm getting ahead of myself. Black Wall Street had so many different things, and it had so much. It was, you know, like I said, it's not the only black mecca in America. Like I said, Chicago had one, Detroit had one, Memphis had one. But again, envious whites tore it down. And I heard Tariq Nasheed say this one time. The problem with us is we are too nice. Because essentially what happened is white people or the KKK burnt Tulsa, Oklahoma down. Also, the city officials that were around were in on this, the white city officials. Because Tulsa, Oklahoma, well, the Black Wall Street was a community, essentially. It wasn't a city, it was a community. And, of course, city officials went in on what the KKK wanted to do. And Tariq Nasheed said this once. The problem with Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's the only problem that they had, they did not have a gun or a bullet manufacturing business. Because I promise you, if we could ever do what they did, the first person I'm hiring is somebody who know how to make bullets and know how to make a gun. Because any white supremacist that comes in my neighborhood or comes into my community, shooting their ass down. And that's the only problem. That's the only criticism I have of all of these black towns. Not to say they didn't have guns. I'm not going to say they didn't have them. But they didn't have them enough to shoot these white people off. Because there's no reason why they should be able to, if you, during the Jim Crow laws, you ain't busting these people down. You have to. But nonetheless, this is essentially what had taken place. And, you know, it also goes to show that when we unify, we can do so much. You know what I'm saying? These people, like I said, this was a community. They had pawn shops, churches, theaters, you know what I'm saying? School institutions for education. They had hospitals. You know what I'm saying? That's a community. They grew their own food. That's a community. That's what we say we want now. They were essentially sovereign people. They were self-sufficient. And, you know, it got torn down by white people. And it just speaks to every single time white people see black people do something great, they become envious, they become jealous. And what they have to do is tear it down. It's the MO, essentially, what they do. You understand what I'm saying? The Egyptians ran shit, they say, for 4,000 years. I believe it was longer, but ran shit for 4,000 years. They taught the Greeks everything they knew. The Greeks came in, betrayed them, and basically invaded them and took all the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? If you know anything about what was it? I think it was the Black Plague in Europe. The Moors, black people civilized these white people. That means we gave them knowledge twice, essentially. Taught them how to bathe. These niggas was sleeping in cages with their chickens and bathe. Like, come on, man. We civilized them twice. We give these people the knowledge and they turn around and backstab us, essentially. But that's neither here nor there. But that's a common theme I want people to understand. That we always are helping these people out and not getting anything in return. But nonetheless, where do I want to go from here? Let's go, because this is a section right here where I should have addressed later. I could have addressed earlier, but I'll address it later. Let's talk about, let's see, because goddamn, like I said, I have so many notes. I next want to talk about integration. That's what I want to talk about next. Integration, the civil rights movement. I'm going to come out and say it from the jump. The civil rights movement was planned and essentially was set up to basically go through. Essentially, that's essentially how it goes. That's no other way. I can't put it any other way. The civil rights movement, they wanted it to succeed. And Martin Luther King was at the epicenter of it. The only people that wanted to integrate were followers of him, and they were Christians, of course. And I also have to say this, because this goes to what I say nowadays. Because I tell black people, if we can't get what we want, we need to separate. Why? You have to understand the mindset of these black people that did not want to integrate. Because like I said, it was more of us that did not want to integrate that did. We were thinking back then, why would I want to sit where I'm not wanted? These white people have done so much shit to us. Why would I want to go into their restaurant and eat with them? Why would I want to spend my money with their business? Why would I want to do those? Why would I want to waste? Why would I want to do that? I'm getting sick with water hoses. Dogs getting sick on me if I do some of it. If I whistle wrong. Why would I want to sit here and sit with these people? It doesn't make any sense. That's why we know now. Of course, niggas didn't know back then. Well, Malcolm X knew, and some others knew, but the vast majority did not know that this integration was a plan and that they wanted it to essentially to happen and they wanted it to succeed. Civil rights, like I said, was planned out, and I also need to play a video, right quick by Malcolm X. Malcolm X highlights this very well. I'm going to play the audio through the mic because this is the only way I'm going to be able to actually like get it out for people to know. So let me pull it up right quick. Hold on. Damn, I went past it. Hold on. I got to get the time right. Excuse me. All right, here we go. Oh shit! Shit was on my echo. Hold on, right quick. Let me bring it back. Let me turn it. Hold on. Let me get it right. All right, here we go.
The white man pays Reverend Martin Luther King, subsidizes Reverend Martin Luther King, so that Reverend Martin Luther King can continue to teach the Negroes to be defenseless. That's what you mean by nonviolent. Be defenseless. Be defenseless in the face of one of the most cruel beasts that has ever taken the people into captivity. That's this American white man. And they have proved it throughout the country by the police dogs and the police clubs. 100 years ago, they used to put on a white sheet and use a bloodhound against Negro. Today, they have taken off the white sheet and put on police uniforms. They've traded in the bloodhounds for police dogs, and they're still doing the same thing. And just as Uncle Tom, back during slavery, used to keep the Negroes from resisting the Bloodhound or resisting the Ku Klux Klan by teaching them to love their enemy or pray for those who use them despitefully. Today, Martin Luther King is just a 20th century or modern Uncle Tom or a religious Uncle Tom who is doing the same thing today to keep Negroes defenseless in the face of attack that Uncle Tom did on the plantation to keep those Negroes defenseless. The goal of Dr. Martin Luther King is...
All right, everybody. Like I was saying, the civil rights era was basically planned out, and as you just heard Malcolm X describe about Martin Luther King, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but we have to talk about Martin Luther King for a second here. Martin Luther King. Well, how can I put this? Martin Luther King was their pawn, essentially. Now, I'm pretty sure in the beginning he thought that his intentions were good. You know, he thought he was doing a good thing. You know what I'm saying? He was, you know what I'm saying? He was a preacher, essentially. You understand what I'm saying? He believed in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? He believed that, you know, we should. I'm pretty, like I said, I'm pretty sure his intentions in the beginning were good, but nonetheless, he was a pawn in their game. They had dirt on Dr. King's name. The FBI had tapes of Dr. King basically being on the phone trying to get hookers and, you know what I'm saying, trying to sleep with women and have orgies or whatever the case is. I hate talking bad about the man because he's such a great civil rights icon, but we have to understand that he was essentially being used. And once he realized he was being used, because he actually realized that, you know what I'm saying, he was being used. He woke up, he realized, he did a speech saying that he realized he integrated his people into a burning house, and you know what I'm saying, from there they killed him. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, the FBI had tapes, and John F. Kennedy's wife spoke, I believe, to Bobby Kennedy and disclosed to her, you could look the video up, that the FBI had tapes on Dr. King, and they were not good tapes. And like I said, they were saying that he was cheating on his wife, and you know, he did orgies, and you actually can get these tapes. You actually can buy them. So I mean, that's essentially speaks for itself. And Coretta Scott King knew about this. She did a speech talking about it. Like I said, I hate to pour, you know, dirt on the man's name, but he was a pawn in their agenda. Once they realized that they did not need him anymore, they got rid of him. And I also want people to think about this also. During that time, if they did not want him, think about this for a second. If they didn't want him to succeed, do you think he would have gotten as much media coverage as he did? No, he would have not gotten the media coverage if they didn't want his plans to succeed. You got to think, you know what I'm saying, white people were marching with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was a well thought out plan and agenda that they essentially got to go down. And like I said, man, it just speaks to, and like I said, I have to elaborate on this again because it's something that we just don't understand and we haven't fully come to understand. Before integration, we had things. There was a black unity. There was unity in us. We was not looking for white validation the way that we are nowadays. We understood that white people didn't want us around. White people collectively, not all white people, but white people collectively did not want us around. I already talked about Black Wall Street. I already talked about Rosewood. I already talked about all these different black communities that were thriving. We were thriving. We had something. And we needed to be integrated. And this leads to my next point. We needed to be integrated essentially to save the American economy. Because the American economy was failing. The same year, in 1964, when the Civil Rights Bill was passed, let me find this man's name. A man by the name of Barry Goldwater gave a speech. Let me play the speech. Let me find the speech for a second, and then I'll go from there, and then I'll let you all hear it essentially. Hold on right quick. Let me pull the speech up. Because this speech is very, very serious. And I need to play it. And people need to hear it. Alright, right, here it is right here, people.
I have spent most of my life as a Democrat. I recently have seen fit to follow another course. I believe that the issues confronting us cross party lines. Now, one side in this campaign has been telling us that the issues of this election are the maintenance of peace and prosperity. The line has been used, we've never had it so good. But I have an uncomfortable feeling that this prosperity isn't something on which we can base our hopes for the future. No nation in history has ever survived a tax burden that reached a third of its national income. Today, 37 cents out of every dollar earned in this country is the tax collector's share. And yet our government continues to spend $17 million a day more than the government takes in. We haven't balanced our budget 28 out of the last 34 years. We've raised our debt limit 3 times in the last 12 months. And now our national debt is 1.5 times bigger than all the combined debts of all the nations of the world. We have $15 billion in gold in our treasury. We don't own an ounce. Foreign dollar claims are $27.3 billion. And we've just had announced that the dollar of 1939 will now purchase 45 cents in its total value. As for the peace that we would preserve, I wonder who among us would like to approach the wife or mother whose husband or son has died in South Vietnam and ask them if they think this is a peace that should be maintained indefinitely. Do they mean peace, or do they mean we just want to be left in peace? There can be no real peace while one American is dying someplace in the world for the rest of us. We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not too long ago, 2 friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down. Man's old age dream, the ultimate in individual freedom consistent with law and order, or down to the ant-heap of totalitarianism. And regardless of their sincerity, their humanitarian motives, those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course.
All right, now again, that speech is Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan gave that speech basically endorsing Barry Goldwater. And the reason why he gave that speech is because the American economy was similar and pretty much the same as it was during the Great Depression. And like I said, this was passed the same year as the Civil Rights Act. I mean, that speech was given the same year of the Civil Rights Act. And basically, like I said, we were still feeling the effects of the Great Depression. White people were losing jobs. They didn't have enough jobs. Meanwhile, the black community is doing great. You had businesses, you had infrastructure, you were doing fine. You understand what I'm saying? So they needed to integrate and bring us into the system and into their government fully so that we can shop with them and it can, you know what I'm saying, help them essentially. We were their remedy to basically not going into a Great Depression. And I want people to really, really, really understand that. Let me also give this bit of information. In 1935, everyone became U.S. citizens. But before then, the only people that were considered U.S. citizens were black people. Once you were emancipated, you were considered citizens. In 1935, everyone became U.S. citizens. and basically everyone got us a social security card and got birth certificates. And basically you got that because of the Social Security Act that got passed in 1935. I'm going to say that again in case people didn't understand or hear what I just said. In 1935, the Social Security Act got passed and everyone became U.S. citizens, and everyone was given a birth certificate and a Social Security card. But before 1935, only black people were considered U.S. citizens. I want people to really understand that. And being a citizen in the U.S. is probably one of the worst things that you could possibly be. But that's a topic for another day. And like I said before, when you integrated, you created a bigger government. You created more taxes to be given to the government. And like I said, black people were the remedy. Malcolm X and a few other people saw what was coming down the road, but you know what I'm saying. As KRS One says, the prophet is never welcome in his own home. And Dr. King essentially became an American icon. Kids don't have to go to school on Martin Luther King Day. He got his own holiday. He got his own museum. You understand what I'm saying? He was their guy, essentially, who did their thing and did what they wanted him to do. And he succeeded. And look at where we are today after integration. Let's touch on affirmative action for a second. Now, there's no secret that affirmative action helped white women more than it helped black people. This is no secret. You can look this up. Affirmative action helped white women. And why did it help white women? Because white women are considered a minority. In 1964, when the Civil Rights Bill was enacted, it said you cannot discriminate against race, color, sexual orientation, religion, or national origin. So, like I said, the bill that we were so-called marched for, the bill that we got water holes sicked on us, we got beat down for, the bill that we did all the fighting for, it helps everybody. That's the problem with black people. We are too nice. And like I said, affirmative action helps white people, but there's also the things I need to speak on as far as affirmative action goes. They needed to get black people into higher places. Because essentially what they needed their new version of house niggas, essentially. That's essentially what they needed. They needed black people to become politicians. They needed black people to become teachers. They needed us to become doctors. They needed us to become puppets to keep the field niggas, the regular U.S. citizens, in their roles. And they basically would just make the people who will become in higher positions basically the new house niggas, essentially. So let me break this down because I might have said that confusingly. They needed affirmative action. Basically, was used to get black people in higher places so that they could become their new house niggas, and they did that so that these new house niggas can keep the field niggas, regular black U.S. citizens, as field niggas to keep us in control. They needed puppets. That's essentially what they needed. And all this was done to destroy the black community and keep the black community down. Let's also discuss, and I probably still wrote this in my notes, but I remember hearing Umar Johnson discuss this, and I actually looked this up at one point. We also have to take into consideration they took all the trades out of school, I believe, either in the 70s or in the 80s. They took all the trades. You could become a plumber, a carpenter, a welder, or anything like that. They took all that stuff out of schools and said you need to go to college basically to live a good life. So you have to understand this was something that they put in place for black people essentially to fail, because before you didn't need to go to college. College cost money. I mean, of course, black people did go to college, but not every black person can afford to go to college. If you have a trade, you could pay the bills. Me, I'm a meat cutter right now. You know what I'm saying? I can get a job anywhere cutting meat. It's a trade, essentially. You know what I'm saying? I know people that, you know what I'm saying, are plumbers. You know what I'm saying? Plumbing is a very good job. People need their goddamn toilet unclogged every day. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like welders, carpenters, people who build things, man, skilled labor. They took all that shit out of the schools. I forgot when it was and what the name of the act that they passed to do it. But nonetheless, they took that out of the schools. And you also have to take into consideration also that during the mid-70s, after integration, black businesses were failing. Black people were becoming poor because they took the trades out of school and because black businesses were failing. And right around this exact same time, project housing came into place. I'm pretty sure if you ever been to New York or if you ever been like downtown or been like Chicago or like Detroit or Philly or something like that, you'll see these big ass projects. It's really present on the west on the East Coast. You will basically see housing projects in basically columns, and they will basically build these into, you know what I'm saying, somewhat decent black communities. And all of these poor people being funneled into these housing projects, crime is inevitable. You understand what I'm saying? If you take away a man's food source, or, you know what I'm saying, take away things that he needs in order to survive, it's going to put him into survival mode. So crime is inevitable, essentially, in a poor community. I want people to really understand that. If I don't have and you have what I need, I'm going to take what you have for myself. That's just human instinct. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's just going to let themselves starve to death. You understand what I'm saying? You're going to steal. You're going to kill. You understand what I'm saying? And this essentially was, like I said, their plan. It's a planned thing. They thought this out well. They basically were socially engineering us back into slavery. Sad to say, they integrated us to put us back into slavery. Before integration, you did your own thing. You didn't really need them. I mean, of course, you pay taxes here, but you didn't really need them. You didn't need white people. You didn't need to go to their stores. You didn't need to shop at their like I said, shop at their stores and eat at their restaurants. You grew your own food. Now, after integration, now you need to rely on them for everything. They can give you the crumbs and give you less while they get rich off of you. This is exactly what happened in slavery. You were enslaved, you worked to white people, and they benefited from it. All that wealth went to them right after. And then after you integrated, it slowly and surely went back to that again. And today it's even worse than ever because we don't own anything. But let me get back to the notes here. Excuse me. The projects became, of course, the new slave quarters for black people. And like I said earlier, affirmative action was put in place to get Negroes into high places. So, you know what I'm saying, the lawyers, the doctors, the policemen, the people who made it, they left the black community, went to the white community, essentially. You know what I'm saying? That's why you see Uncle Tom ass niggas on TV, you know what I'm saying, talking down about black people, saying it's them and America works and shit like that. But the system created this distrust and created this disproportionate fuck up for black people. But nonetheless, excuse me, from there came probably the worst blow to the black community that still has a lasting image to this day and has not went away, because to me, this was the nail in the coffin for us, because it still holds and still affects us to this day. The crack epidemic. The crack epidemic was caused by the CIA, Crack Importation Agency. I'm going to say that again. The CIA, standing for Crack Importation Agency. They basically brought crack into the America. And of course, because black people are their muse, who do you think got it? And we all know who got it. Black people got it. And they basically used a man by the name of Freeway Rick Ross. I'm pretty sure everybody heard Freeway Rick Ross. Freeway Rick Ross basically learned from, you know what I'm saying, the CIA and their agents. He didn't know they were CIA agents, of course. But he basically was taught by CIA agents because he was pretty much an illiterate man. Didn't know how to read, didn't know how to write. You know, I don't even think he graduated high school. People should look into Freeway Rick Ross. He's a solid dude. I've seen some of his interviews. He seems like a solid dude, but nonetheless, they used him. He didn't know what they were really planning to use him for. I mean, they knew that he was going to sell drugs, but he said himself he didn't know that it would be this damaging, because weed was around, but it wasn't damaging. Crack destroyed the black community, completely destroyed it. You had people running around here doing anything for crack, killing, you know what I'm saying? And not to mention the media coverage that was done on crack. Man, like all the stuff that was said and done in the media about the crack epidemic is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just crazy. Like, I remember like seeing the gangland shows and stuff like that growing up. You know what I'm saying? Like about the Bloods and the Crips and the Vice Lords and etc. The history of them. And I just remember, like, you know what I'm saying, these were drug dealers, and it all stems from the crack epidemic, essentially. And this, like I said, the CIA brought crack into the United States. No one is going to sit here and tell me that Freeway Rick Ross came up with this on his own. Could not read, could not write, was essentially an illiterate. I'm not going to say he wasn't smart, but he was an illiterate. It was basically an illiterate man. You're not going to sit here and tell me that he came up with this master drug on his own. No way, Jose. And nonetheless, the research has been done and it's been documented and has been proven time and time again that the CIA brought crack into the United States. And you want to know why they did it? To fund their war against the Nicaraguans. They used U.S. This is why I said being a U.S. citizen is not really, especially when if you're black, it really don't work for you. They used U.S. citizens. They used a drug that they knew was going to be highly addictive and that they knew was going to destroy the black community in its image to fund their wars in Nicaragua against the Contras. This is a sick game this is a sick thing that these people have done to us. Like I said, this has been proven. I'm not even really giving all the information. I kind of am summarizing this essentially because I knew this video was going to be long as shit. So I'm like, I don't want to make it too long to where people are not necessarily become uninterested. But you can look this up. Look, Freeway Rick Ross has done a series of interviews on this. I believe that they even did a TV special on this. It has not gotten as much media coverage as it should, of course. But a TV special was done on Freeway Rick Ross, Danilo Blandone, and the CIA's involvement in the crack epidemic. And you know what I'm saying? You know, the question you would have to ask yourself is, and it's not really something that you should ask yourself, but this just speaks to the sick mindset of the U.S. government and these white people. Why wouldn't they give this to rich white people when they know they can get all the money from these rich white people? It's going to be a consistent income. Why wouldn't they give it to them, but give it to us? Because they don't give a shit about you. Like I said, this is a plan. You understand? They wanted to see if this drug was going to stick, and it stuck well, and people were killing for crack cocaine. You know what I'm saying? Just to get it, people were doing crazy things. And like I said, the media coverage that was done for and from this has completely destroyed the image of the black community. And in my opinion, this is where this to me is the centralized. I'm not gonna say centralized, but this is probably the most significant reason for the distrust in the black community to this day. Because to me, even before integration, we had, we had family structure. After integration and during this, the crack epidemic went from an all-time high, you know what I'm saying, that this would fuck up the black community and the black family structure. Because you now have black men going to jail or black men strung out on crack. Now you have female single parents raising the kids. She can't essentially afford to send her kids to a good school. They have to go to schools in the hood. We all know the schools in the hood don't get any good education. And now, not to mention in the house, you know what I'm saying, the dad's not being there, so the mom's emotions and resentment is now rubbing off on the boy. Now he grows up confused, not really knowing what a man is. He's becoming emotional, or he's saying, well, I got to get it how I got to get it. And I got to do the same thing my dad did and go sell drugs. So now he's the son caught up in the system. The older he gets, and he has his own child who grows up in a single parent household. Not to even mention about the girls. You know what I'm saying? The mother, I'm starting from the mother whose boyfriend or husband went to jail for selling crack. Now that daughter essentially is growing up without a father. She doesn't know what it feels like to have a man around. The woman is the mom is resentment towards the husband, and basically says these niggas ain't shit, and that goes into the daughter's mind. And now the daughter has distrust for black men, and now the only black men, the first black man to ever love her, never taught her how to be loved. And now she distrusts black men, and now she has kids, and the cycle just continues to repeat itself over and over again. And like, this is where we're at today. It speaks to like the distrust that was put in place and how crack cocaine really fucked us up. It really, really did, because it taught us for one that it taught us for one that in order to get money you need to sell drugs. And I'm not gonna say that it taught all of us that, but it taught a vast majority of us that. And even to this day, I look at people who I grew up with, even not people I grew up with, people I just see on Instagram, essentially. I look at rappers today. They talking about hustling and selling drugs to their own people. This was implemented during the crack. That concept was implemented during the crack epidemic of selling to your own people. I remember I saw an interview with China Mac. He did it on Vlad TV. This is before I stopped watching Vlad, of course. But he basically said that, you know what I'm saying, the Chinese don't sell in their own community. They go to other communities and sell. Why is that? Because they have a unity that we don't have. We're the only people that say, well, I got to get it by any means necessary. You know what I'm saying? The Chinese essentially knew they had some morale in their mind. They were taught by their OGs that, listen, what we're doing is wrong, but we ain't giving this shit to our own people. Get this shit to other people. We got to make sure our community is straight. We got to make sure that that's also smart on another level. Don't sell in your own community. That way your community isn't hot. But we backwards ass thinkers because we were socially engineered to be that way. And not to mention, like I said, all this stuff was a plan. And and I also need to say this right quick, because people need to understand this about crack. These people are sick. Like these people are sick. If these were white people who, and I mean, you could tell by the day with the opioid crisis, they're saying that white people are sick. They never said that about us. They just built more prisons. That's also going into my next topic. They built more prisons. They didn't put them in hospitals. They didn't quarantine them and say we need to detox this out of these people. No, they put them in prison. They put the drug users in prison, and they put the drug pushers in prison. It was a plan. It was a setup to destroy the black family and destroy the black image for all time. And let me also point this out too. In 1984, the CCA came into play, Corrections Corporation of America. This basically was the beginning of private prisons in America. And private prison is a business. There are so many different products that come out of private prisons. Washing machines, dryers, microchips are all made in private prisons. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not government owned, and it's basically paid for by big companies, essentially. And then 2 years later, after CCA came into play, a law was passed for the 100-to-1 crack disparity. 5 grams of crack, 5 grams of crack will get you 5 years mandatory. If they caught you with 500 grams of powder cocaine, you would get the same amount. So easy way to put niggas in jail. Easy. And they also knew that crack essentially, I hate to say it, was a black drug. It was something that was put into the black community. And they also knew that, I mean, of course, white people smoked crack, but you know what I'm saying? They just considered them casualties of war. You know what I'm saying? They don't give a fuck about their own people. You know, so this goes to just the sick-mindedness of, you know what I'm saying, this government system and these white people, essentially. to where, you know what I'm saying, they looked at it as if these white people are dumb enough to smoke it, then they deserve whatever comes to them. And like I said, this was a plan. And also in 1989, George W. Bush pushed the war on drugs. And also we had in 1989 Cops aired. Now, if you ever seen Cops, it would literally give the best visualization of drug houses, dope houses, the cops' interactions with African Americans and people in the hood, and it would just put us in a complete negative light. Because now, not only did you have media coverage of the show, but now you have cops giving first-hand media coverage of the crack epidemic and them running in drug houses. And all you see is black faces everywhere, black men, and you see strung out black men and women, and kids are just, lives are just fucked up. The cops came in and it just gave it all away. And now you have to understand that white people don't even want to fool with us after the crack epidemic, because they looked at us as savages. They looked at us as, we're selling to our own people. We are crazy. But unknowingly, they didn't know that all of this was in the plan of the U.S. government and these higher up white people. But nonetheless, like I said, that was a detrimental blow to the to the image of black people. And like I said, private prisons were being built. Corporations put their money into these private prisons. Like I said, washers, dryers, microchips were all made in private prisons. Army uniforms were made in private prisons. The boots, the gloves, the hats, the whole entire garment was made in private prisons. Some of the I didn't find a lot, because I think they might have scrubbed the internet, but the ones that I did find of companies that supported private prisons, Wells Fargo was one of them. Wells Fargo, I think as of 2019, pulled their money out of private prisons, but nonetheless, they funded them. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Fidelity Investments, General Electric, and a plethora of other big companies put their money and funded private prisons. And like I said, private prisons were not government ran. They were private prisons that were ran by quotas, essentially. So this also goes to how we know crack was a planned thing, because you now got niggas out here selling crack, and it's just an entire business to throw niggas in jail. That's a business. That's a business in the business of America, to put people in jail and get free labor. I want people to understand that, and the 13th Amendment actually supports that. Basically, it says that, I'm fucking up. The 13th Amendment actually supports that, and basically that just goes to essentially what I'm saying about this being a plan. And matter of fact, I want to read the 13th Amendment real fast, because I think it's something I should most definitely read for people to know. The 13th, I'm Googling it right now. Alright, the 13th Amendment basically says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist in the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. In other words, if the U.S. government finds you guilty of a crime, you cannot be a slave, but you are already a slave. And now crack gave them the right to put your black ass in jail and have you really do hard labor. What more do I need to say? Like, come on. It's crazy how all of this shit goddamn went down. And you know what I'm saying? People went to jail for 20, 30, 40 years. For 30, 40 years, families were destroyed. Like I said, this was a running effect. Imagine if you went to jail in 85. You know what I'm saying? And went to jail for, 20 years. You came home, I think, in 2005? You know what I'm saying? Your kids is grown. you understand? Your kids probably got grandkids at this point. Like, complete families were destroyed because of this American government and the system that America and these white people, these white elite, these white devils implemented. And nothing helped perpetuate this more than rap music. Now, of course, you had different groups like, you know what I'm saying, like what's the name of this group? Lord Jamar's group, Brand Nubian. You had Public Enemy. Of course, you had, you know what I'm saying, different hip hop groups to speak out against this shit. But nonetheless, rap music took a left turn, and you know what I'm saying, it basically, rap music became gangster rap music, to where black people rap and talk about selling drugs and killing each other, and this just created a forever image that will fuck up the black community. You got niggas having women in their music video degrading themselves, women wearing thongs, stripping, and that would fuck up. It's so much stuff that stemmed from the crack epidemic that it's crazy, and it created a forever, now I'm not going to say forever, but it created a distrust that has been implemented to this day. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention, the school systems were no better back then. Like, I'm jumping all over the place with what I'm saying, but the school systems today ain't no better. You know, this was in the 80s, you know what I'm saying, 90s. And the school system still ain't no goddamn better. You know what I'm saying? They don't teach you anything worthwhile for you to get out of the situation that you're in, because if you're growing up in the hood, your school is in the hood, your friends are in the hood, and like I said, the school ain't really teaching you nothing. Where do you think you're gonna wind up? Back in the hood, repeating the same cycle over and over again. If you see that you're not getting good money at this little local job that you're getting, and you don't have any aspirations to go to college, but you see all these, you know what I'm saying, rappers and dope dealers have money, what do you think that, you know what I'm saying, what do you think a black child is gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like, you either gonna rap or you gonna sell drugs. It's one or the other. It's the only thing that you can do, because you see rappers on TV talking about rapping and selling drugs, and then you also see drug dealers in your neighborhood talking about selling drugs. So what are you gonna do? Because you don't see yourself going anywhere. Now, of course, in the system, there are cracks. The Matrix has slip-ups. I kind of gave it away a little bit. The Matrix has slips up, of course, and this is where affirmative action and that law came into play, to where when a black person makes it out, they become the new house nigga. Because now you do not go back into the black community. You do not go back, and you don't care about your people enough. The only people you bring, and if you do, and let's just say you do bring some people with you, they bring you down. Because they don't know any better. Because our mentality is fucked up. So either you go away and become a house nigga and, you know what I'm saying, don't bring your people and give your people the middle finger, or you bring your people and they bring you back down. It's a cycle. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's meant for you to fail either way, because if you go out and you become a billionaire like Byron Allen, you still sold your people out. So now you're the 1/100th of a percent that made it out, and your people still are struggling. And then if you do make it out and bring people with you, 9 times out of 10, they're going to bring your ass back down, because all they know is nigga shit. Because they ain't never had nothing before. Again, it's a perpetual cycle that just can... Oh, man, it's just... People need to understand, man, this shit is real. It's a system set up this way. Understand that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not even really looking at my notes. I have so much... A couple stuff more to go off of, but I'm kind of just winging it at this point, because I want people to understand the mental damage that was done to us. But there is something I do want to point out right quick before I continue, because I really don't have too much more to say. This video pretty much is what it is, and I've said everything that I need to say. Where is this thing at? I can't seem to find this particular note that I actually wrote down. Shoot. But, nonetheless, it really don't matter because I kind of proved my point. I was just going to talk about, it was a word I was going to look up. But it was speaking about the psychological damage that was done to us. But nonetheless, you know, like I said, this system was created to put, and it goes back to the Willie Lynch letter again. Oh shit, I had the book backwards. It goes back to the Willie Lynch letter. It goes back to the slave narratives. It goes back to Johann Blumenbach. It goes to this system creating distrust between the black man and the black woman and just black people in general. This was the goal, to get us back in slavery, but without change. You don't have on chains anymore, people. It's mental nowadays. You're mentally enslaved. And people don't even realize it. You think that going to work and working for this white man and making his dreams rich is the end all be all for you? Like, this white man doesn't give a fuck about you. You know what I'm saying? I work for the Walmart Corporation. I know Walmart doesn't really give a fuck about me. They don't have to tell me that, but I already know. You know what I'm saying? You may work for Publix. You may work for Home Depot. You may work for, I don't know, Kroger. You may work for Myers. You know, you may work for some big major fucking company that doesn't give a fuck about you. But you gotta do what you gotta do to pay your bills, right? You're a slave. And if you're lucky, and if you're, well, not if you're lucky, if you're black, you are likely to go to jail. Simply because you're black. You didn't, that alone incentivizes you to go to jail or get killed by, you know what I'm saying, by the cops. Not to mention you have to worry about other niggas who are on some nigga shit who don't know any better because you've been indoctrinated and mentally enslaved to hate your own people. Like I said before, there's no reason why George Zimmerman should be running around, or whoever the dude is who killed George Floyd. There's no reason why they should be running around. And we talking about black power and black unity. Black power and black unity would be going to find these people and hold them accountable ourselves. But we don't have that we don't have that unity anymore. We don't have that. It's every man for himself. A black man sits here and becomes a millionaire and does not think to help or give back to his community. It's just simply put what it is nowadays. And it's sad as shit. And like I said, man, the Willie Lynch letter plays a huge role on this. You know what I'm saying? Because men can't be men anymore. You understand what I'm saying? Men have to be, and the way society is going nowadays, like I said, this goes back to the Willie Lynch letter. The roles have been reversed. Men are feminine nowadays, guys. Men are becoming feminized. Look at the only way. This just goes to show how sick society is and how so much the Bible and this government has no truth. The Bible basically is against homosexuality, but you got the U.S. government essentially parading these LGBTQ, and it's nothing against LGBTQ, but I want people to understand, or black people to understand, when they're being used as a muse, for this government. They're parading around these LGBTQ Negroes to push their agenda, but they won't show you any strong black families. Like, I think the last strong black show I might have seen might have been Family Guy. And I don't think I was born when that came out. You know, like the Family Guy, the Cosby Show. What happened to the fresh shows like the Fresh Prince, Martin? You know what I'm saying? Like, what happened to shows like that? They don't show them shits no more. What happened to Smart Guy? But no, I wouldn't say Smart Guy. I think Smart Guy was about a single parent, single father. But what happened to strong black TV shows? Good Times. You know what I'm saying? Good Times may not be a good example, but it still showed a black family that was together. You do not see that anymore. The only TV shows they show you that show somewhat of a family structure, and I love this show, by the way, but Power. You know what I'm saying? It shows a drug dealing father. You know what I'm saying? Look at Empire. It shows that you only can get it in the entertainment business. You only can get it doing entertainment, and that's essentially what we have become for them. We're entertainment. We dribble a basketball, shoot it in the hoop, game. You know what I'm saying? We throw a football. You know what I'm saying? Game. We're entertainment for them. Just the same way we were entertainment for them back in the slave days. It's a cycle. It's a system. But we're not cognizant of the system. And then they throw millions of dollars at these Negroes just to have them be coons, like Charles Barkley. You know what I'm saying? Like his cooning, non-educated, crazy rhetoric having ass, and that's no disrespect to him. I like Charles Barkley, but I gotta call a spade, dude. Like I understand he's the OG. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I respect him, but I gotta call a spade a spade. You understand what I'm saying? They created these Negroes, like I said, to be the new house niggas. To create distrust between the black man and the black woman. It's all a setup. And again, movies like Precious and The Blind Side did not help in the 2010s either, because it put us again in a negative light. Those were horror movies for us. The Help, movies like that were horror movies for us. They showed us in a negative light. It's a repetition cycle of trauma, distrust, disloyalty, and just no community bonding or no family structure at all. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention shows like Jerry Springer and shows like that, Maury. You know what I'm saying? Showing how a black man sleeping with all these women and cheating on his wife, and Jerry Springer showing that men are in the closet and men can't be trusted. It's just it's a business. That's the American structure in itself. This is why I tell black people that America is a casting system disguised as a class system. If you know anything about a caste system, a certain group of people, and you can look this up in India, are socially engineered to be the lower, I forgot what the name of it, I think it's the Druids or something like that, but they're socially engineered to be the lowest of the low. That's what black people are for America. America runs off of your poverty and off of your pain and makes money off of it. That's America. You understand what I'm saying? And like people want to run around here talking about we need to vote. Vote for what? This is America. You know, this is America. I understand this is a long ass video, but I gotta say all of this. I have to drive the point home that this is America. America's never gonna fuck about you and never will. It doesn't matter if it let some little Negroes in and be some little puppet Negroes in. The same way you had house niggas, and even in some cases in slavery, over some of the people who would watch over the slaves, the overseers were black. It's the same shit today with all of these black millionaires. You have all these black millionaires, but the black community still is terrible. Come on, man. Why is that? Because you can't talk black with white money. You can't. They got a chokehold on you. People saying they got to send their kid. I mean, I think Steve said it at one point when he was talking to Monique. You know what I'm saying? I got to take care of my family. You know what I'm saying? I got to do for my family. Yeah, of course you do. Because, and also I have to say this too. The people are fucked up. We are fucked up as the people. I can't just put it all off on the celeb. We fucked up as the people. We ain't ready to hear what needs to be said. If Jay-Z or Beyonce came out, and I'm just using it because it came to my mind first. If Jay-Z or Beyonce came out and said all of this is a scam, all this bullshit, Jesus never existed. If they just said everything I just said in this video, do you really think black people are gonna believe you? No. Because a white person didn't say it again. So again, distrust. So if speaking the truth was profitable, a lot of people would do it. But these Negroes aren't going to risk their, you know what I'm saying, millions and billions of dollars. Like I said, I'm not trying to pick on Jay-Z or Beyonce. If you know me, I fuck with Jay-Z heavy. But I'm just using them because they first people came to my mind. But none of these niggas is going to put their livelihood, their empires in jeopardy just to be, you know what I'm saying, shitted on by their own people, because we have been fucked up as a people to the point where we don't trust one another. The only people we trust, again, as the Willie Lynch letter said, is white people. I mean, what more do I really need to say? Like, I've said so much. I understand this video is long, people, but you know, I this is probably the most important video I will do. And I left stuff out, so of course there's gonna be more to it. But I had to do this video. I had to touch on why the black community is the way it is. And I'm probably gonna leave it at this. And I also want to say shout out to my boy Randy, because me and him was talking about this a few days ago. And you know, he was asking me a question. I'm not gonna say what the question is, but he was just asking me a question. It kind of entailed to a certain degree black unity. And I kind of told him that, you know what I'm saying, that a problem with us as black people is that we are unwilling to evolve as a people due to us just, this is the way we have been socially engineered. And you know what I'm saying, like, people, the older people get, the more stuck in their ways they get. If all you know is church, barbershop, grocery store, and home, and job, those 5 things, if that's all you know, I mean, of course, family, of course, then that's all there is for you to know. You know what I'm saying? That's your life. You know what I'm saying? You go to church every Sunday, you go to work. Excuse me. You know what I'm saying? You go to work because you went to school, and school didn't really teach you anything, how to be your own individual, about how to work for somebody. So you go to church, go to work. You got to feed yourself. You go to the grocery store, you go to the barbershop, get your hair, you know what I'm saying, your nails done. You know what I'm saying? Then you go home and spend time with your family. That's all you know. You understand what I'm saying? And people become, you know what I'm saying, basically indoctrinated to their own agenda, essentially. Because if all you do is vote Democrat, go to church, and like I said, do the things I just said, that's all you know. So if I come to you with some new information like this, it's like, what the fuck this nigga talking about? If I come to a regular person and tell them, yo, bro, you know what I'm saying, white man, you know, was responsible for the crack epidemic. Like, nigga, what? What do you mean? Like, I saw they gonna say the same thing white people said, because, like I've said before, through osmosis, we have become white people. They're gonna say, I saw black people on TV shooting each other. We're killing ourselves. We use those talking points. That's not our talking points. That's their talking points. But we don't understand that. So, like I said, what me and my boy Randy was talking about, and I basically told him we have become our own worst enemy. You know what I'm saying? And this was, like I told him, this was bred, like I said, shout out to him. We were bred into this after integration. You know what I'm saying? And I told him about Black Wall Street and all that other stuff. And you know what I'm saying? Once we became, you know, indoctrinated and integrated into white society, everything black became secondary, because it's taught us that everything that's white is right and everything black is wrong. And I basically went through everything I went through in this video. So shout out to my boy Randy, because you know what I'm saying, it's the truth. Like I told him, America creates its own problems. How would America run if it didn't create its own problems? I mean, you would have peace on earth if there was no problems with humanity, but America creates its own problems. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it is. And you know what I'm saying, it's the Matrix once again. I really don't know where else to go with this. I think I've covered I'm just scrolling through our messages right now. I think I've just covered every single thing I wanted to cover for this. Yeah, man, it's everything I've said just speaks to the problems of the African American community today. Because we don't love ourselves, we don't trust one another. I said this to him in the group, and I've even said this to a few people, because black people be getting Botox done and getting boob jobs and getting liposuction and all that fake asses, and I'm like, bruh, first of all, white people want to be you. So why are you augmenting yourself when white people want to be you? White people are getting lip injections, nose jobs. They're getting that stuff emulating you. The big lip thing is it's what we have. You know what I'm saying? Like, our facial features and our attributes are essentially, they envy us. And that's really what it comes down to. I probably should have said this throughout the video. They envy us. They want to be us. But we continue to augment ourselves because of self-hate that is been passed down. You know what I'm saying? I told Randy and a few other people this. You know, people running around getting fake boob jobs and fake noses and fake lips and fake cheekbones and want people to treat them real when you can't even be real with yourself. You understand? Like, how you gonna run around here, you know what I'm saying, telling people to treat you real, but you got everything fake on, your tits fake. You know what I'm saying? Like, a woman can never, I mean, this goes for a man too, but a woman can never ask for a real man if everything is on you fake. How can he be real to you when he can't even look at the real you? You understand? Like, come on, this isn't you. A man falls in love, you know what I'm saying? This is me. My woman is all natural. You understand what I'm saying? Everything on her is natural. No makeup, no none of that. You understand what I'm saying? I know who she is, essentially. All these other women out here getting all these fake asses and shit. You're like having a real man is somewhat impossible for you because everything on you is fake. Your attitude is fake. Being the baddest bitch. Why you need to be the baddest bitch? Why? What happened to just being a normal female, essentially? What's wrong with that? Being a normal female is being the god of creation, essentially. Because black women are the gods, essentially, of humanity. You know what I'm saying? We've already discussed about how, you know what I'm saying, the Eve gene and etc. How a black woman is the starting point for humanity. We've already discussed that. You know what I'm saying? And I gotta say this also to black men, because we ain't off the hook either. We need to stop running around treating black women wrong, man. We gotta trust one another. We can't be shooting each other. We can't be going to jail. We can't be breaking the law. We gotta be united, man. We gotta be on a united front, because there is a war that has been waged against us, and we are losing badly. Like, it's technically we lost, but we need to come together, man. We need to rebuild our relationship with our women. There are a plethora of things that we need to do, but I have been rambling on this video, and I already know it is probably more than 2 hours long, but it's so much stuff I could say, man. It's so much stuff I can do. Man, like I said earlier in the video, if I do not put any references in the video, please forgive me, but this was a long ass video. Like, it's so much, like I said, there's so much more stuff I could have put in this video, but maybe another time I will put it in the video. But again, my people, peace, love one another. I love my people, but I want us to love each other again. I want us to be united. The stuff we can do. Look at the Egyptians. The Egyptians had the greatest civilization in the history of the earth. What we can do when we're united is limitless. Limitless. But I'm gonna leave it at that. Peace, everybody. Thank you for watching.